of Pan-African than Fritz Fanon. And I feel that you've bestowed on us an enormous favor on this indigenously grown business club, which was born in Mombasa, born in Nairobi, and is now 3 years in the making. The quality of the president I have found this week on Tuesday, I was not sure whether this was really going to happen. And then Kintu, are you here? My friend Kintu called me and said, Ali Khan, are you ready for the State House protocol team? I said, sure. And about 12 people turned up. They couldn't find my office. They found the next door office. And Mr. President, the quality of you, I think, is discovered in the quality of your team. I have not met a team who had such fantastic manners and was so fantastically well behaved. And I would like to thank your team, your protocol team, and all of them for this week. I do not want to dwell on the past. The African history is such a long one, and we all know it. I want to look towards the future. And I believe we sit on the cusp of a momentous moment for Uganda, for the region, and for Africa. It was Ngugi wa Thiong'o who used a quote from Victor Hugo from Les Miserables, and in this quote it says, "There's nothing like a dream to create the future." And I believe as Africans, we have never owned our future as much as we own it today. We actually have it in the palm of our hand. And in Uganda's case, I think Uganda is at an inflection point. Looking at the data, Uganda's GDP was $10 to $15 billion a year, and you've discovered 2.5 billion barrels of oil, and this is of a value of nearly $300 billion. What some of the younger people here would call an inflection point in your history. And I, for one, Mr. President, wish you Godspeed in this journey, a journey that started all those years ago when you deposed 2 dictators, Idi Amin, Milton Obote, on this new journey, taking your country and republic to a new place of prosperity and middle income status. And I once again wish to extend my deepest and strongest wishes that this journey is successful, which I'm sure it will be. Once again, I'm really grateful that you have seen fit to come to Nairobi on this private visit and engage us here. And when I heard the Museveni rap, I realized I was in with a chance with my business club. I would also like to thank everybody who supported this club. I would like to thank Bob Collymore, who's CEO of Safaricom, who's streaming it for us. Chris Karubi, who I can't see, but he's also streaming it. I'd like to thank my friend Jeff, who delivered the invitation to you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank Martin Odioro Otieno of KCB, and many, many other guests who are here today to listen to you speak. This idea of this club came to me many years ago in a place far away from Nairobi in San Francisco. I was visiting, it was the peak of the dot-com boom, and I was attending a conference given by somebody called Guy Kawasaki. And as I went into this conference, there were 10,000 people, and the spirit was that anything was possible and everybody could do whatever they wanted. And I remember thinking to myself, one day I want to recreate such an environment where people can come, can talk, and can feel that they can do anything. Many years later, I was in Turkey, and I went to a shrine, a Sufi saint shrine, and on it was written, "Come, come, whoever you are. Ours is a caravan of hope, not of despair." Mr. President, I welcome you to our 21st Century Business Club. It is a caravan of hope, and we wish all of us here to listen to what you have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. The Honorable Minister, Mr. Ali Khan, when he met me at the entrance of the hotel, I thought he was a hotel manager. And it took me some minutes to know that he was my host. The topic you asked me to speak about is the topic of socio-economic transformation and regional political integration. And that's what I'm going to speak about. I don't normally have written speeches, and you will forgive me when once in a while I digress from this written speech. But since I'm the one who wrote it myself, I think the digressions will be minimal. Many living organisms undergo transformation. There is, for instance, a process in biology known as metamorphosis. This is where, especially insects, change from egg to larva to pupa to mature insect. Butterflies are in this category. Even human beings undergo both quantitative and qualitative changes. I'm in the habit of drinking my cup of tea as I speak to people. It lubricates my throat. Even human beings undergo both quantitative and qualitative changes. A fetus in the womb first grows in size from a single cell to eventually a number of kilograms. The fetus, however, cannot remain in that state forever. The fetus cannot remain in the womb forever. And recently, I was teasing some people that I have never heard of endlessly sustainable pregnancy. And you later on see why I make those jokes. The fetus must transition into a baby after 28 weeks. Otherwise, it will die. Similarly, a baby cannot remain a baby or a child forever. He or she undergoes both quantitative and qualitative changes until puberty, when he or she undergoes more fundamental changes. Similarly, societies undergo transformation. Just like the human being undergoes transformation, societies must also undergo transformation. They cannot remain in one situation forever. That's why I'm a bit worried about this sustainable development, which never results in transformation. Because you've been hearing these phrases, sustainable development, but which never results into transformation. Tree-dwelling societies transitioned into cave dwellers with the invention of fire. Those ancient ancestors of ours who were living in trees, when fire was invented, they were able to go in the caves. So they changed from being tree dwellers and became cave dwellers. With fire, people could live in caves because it chased away the darkness of the caves and the beasts that lived there. The hunter-gathering societies domesticated plants and animals, thereby transitioning into agricultural societies. That was the agricultural revolution. I normally tease the fishermen on Lake Victoria that that they need to imitate my tribe, which started domesticating cows 7,000 years ago. Up to now, the fishermen on Lake Victoria follow the fish in the lake. They have not learned how to domesticate the fish. So they needed to learn one or two things from my tribe, which was, because these cows were animals in the bush, and somehow they persuaded them to come home. And I think the fishermen would do well if they could do the same. The hunter-gathering societies domesticated plants and animals, thereby transitioning into agricultural societies. Eventually, these societies transitioned into feudal governments of kings and chiefs, etc. Societies that do not change run the risk of either being slaves or being exterminated, as happened with the Red Indians, the Aztecs in Mexico, the Incas in Peru, or the Aborigines of Australia. Those people are no longer there, or if they are there, they are very much reduced. And this has happened, did not take long, it did not happen long ago. It happened only 500 years ago. Quickly, those societies almost disappeared. Some of them disappeared completely. Others are there, but very, very marginal where they are. When we come to the more recent centuries, we shall see that the European societies have undergone radical socio-economic transformation in the last 500 years. They have evolved from three feudal social stratifications of peasants, artisans, and feudalists, the aristocrats, to middle class and skilled working class societies. In the last 500 years, the European societies, which many of you like to imitate so much, those societies have undergone social metamorphosis. We talked of biological metamorphosis for butterflies and so on, but there's also social metamorphosis. And here in Europe, you have got societies which have metamorphosed in the last 500 years. 500 years ago, there were those three classes there, social classes: feudalists, peasants, and artisans. Artisans meaning blacksmith and those people. But these societies of Europe have transitioned into middle-class, skilled working-class societies. If you go to Europe today and you look for peasants, you will not find them. They have disappeared. Even if you wanted a peasant for medicine or for something, you will have to die. Because those peasants are no longer there. By the time of the French Revolution in 1789, there were four social classes in France: the feudalists, who depended on renting land, especially the clergy and the nobility; the bourgeoisie, or the middle class, who depended on making profits from capitalist enterprises; the proletariat, or the working class, who depended on selling their labor; and the peasants, who lived on the land of the landlords, parted with part of their produce as rent, and used the rest for themselves. As already mentioned above, these four social classes in the France of 1789 have already transformed into a society of the middle class and the skilled working class. The feudalists and the peasants have disappeared. Even the Queen of England, you may think that she's in the feudal group, but actually she's a capitalist. She has got a lot of properties, out of which she's getting money. The crisis in Uganda, and possibly in other parts of Africa, is that this socio-economic transformation has not taken place sufficiently. This metamorphosis in Africa has not happened. A productive middle class, i.e. those who are in agriculture, factories, services, is either not there or very small. Whatever middle class there is may most likely be an importing middle class, i.e. selling the products of other countries in Uganda. What you call middle class in Uganda and maybe in other African countries are merchants. who are bringing things from outside and selling them here. That's the predominant middle class we have, which itself is a tiny portion of the bigger society. Mao Zedong called this comprador bourgeoisie. That's one of the few French words I know, which means agent middle class, not serving the national interest, but serving the interests of foreigners. If you are selling the products of foreigners in your own country, that's all you are doing. You are not a middle class in your own right, you are an agent of foreign interest. If they are conscious of their historical role, the comprador middle class can use the money they generate from imports to set up enterprises that bring money into the economy. Otherwise, our countries will simply become the supermarkets of the foreign products, where you have the whole country as a supermarket. This, in time, will generate very serious socio-economic problems of unemployment, a narrow tax base, political instability, and many others. We shall come back to this point later. However, for socio-economic transformation to take place, there are certain stimuli that are needed. This socio-economic transformation cannot take place if certain stimuli are not in place. Certain stimuli that are needed. The first stimuli that is needed is technological innovation or adoption. We have seen how the invention of fire caused big changes in the primitive societies, and how the knowledge to domesticate animals caused the agricultural revolution. Similarly, the invention of gunpowder in China, which knowledge was taken to Europe by Genghis Khan around 850 AD, caused huge changes in the world. The Europeans, who opportunistically grabbed this technology and developed it, used it to transform themselves into the masters of the human race. The Africans, who did not access this knowledge, or having been exposed to it, did not bother to adopt it, became slaves or subjugated peoples. Fortunately, the Africans were not exterminated, unlike the Red Indians or the Aztecs. This was on account of our strong genes that had been evolved over time because of the zoonotic diseases we acquired from the domestic animals we kept. Those domestic animals helped us to vaccinate us, because some of the diseases, they can spread between humans and animals. So by keeping animals, we got infected by these diseases and therefore became immune. This gave us the immunity to cope. Somebody who was typing my speech, to cope with the European diseases. This was not the case with the Red Indians, the Caribbean Indians, or the South American Indians. There's a book which you should read, which has been written by a man called Professor Jared Diamond. It has outlined this point very, very well in his book entitled Guns, Germs, and Steel. It was written in 2005. In this book, Professor Diamond showed how the Europeans used guns and germs and steel to dominate the world. We survived the germs, but not the steel and the guns of the Europeans. So, one important stimulus that will cause social change, social transformation, is technology. Technology, technology, technology. If you lag behind in technology, you are sure to be in trouble. And historical examples abound which show this. I've just quoted two. I've quoted two. Gunpowder, three. Fire, what impact fire had on society, the invention of fire. What impact the knowledge of domesticating crops and animals had on society, and what impact gunpowder had on society. These are not stories, these are historical facts. The other important stimulus for socio-economic transformation is infrastructure, especially electricity, roads, railways, and so on. Adequate infrastructure lowers the cost of doing business in the economy. It makes it cheaper for companies to operate in that economy. Low cost of doing business in an economy means higher profit margins for companies. This means a wider tax base, more employment for the youth, to mention only a few of the benefits. This issue of infrastructure development is not well understood by some of the public servants in Africa, and by extension, also the political class. There is, for instance, a measurement that puts Africa of the colonial and post-colonial era in a very bad light. This is what they call kilowatt hour per capita. There is that measurement to measure how backward you are or how advanced you are. And they call it kilowatt hour per capita. The amount of electricity per person. You take the electricity produced in the whole country and you divide by the population, and you will get the kilowatt hour per capita. This is the amount of electricity per citizen, young or old. Here below is a sample of the kilowatt hour per capita of some selected Western, Asian, and African countries. Canada, 15,000 kilowatt hour per capita. Iceland, 53,000. Japan, I'm leaving out these other smaller numbers. I'm not an accountant to read 15,879.86. No. Japan, 7,000. China, 2,500. India, 484. Thailand, 2,000. Malaysia, 3,500. South Korea, 8,000. France, 6,900. Germany, 6,600. Belgium, 8,000. Austria, 8,000. Denmark, 6,000. The Netherlands, 7,000. Norway, 27,000. Portugal, 4,500. Brunei, 7,500. Namibia, 1,300. South Africa, 4,300. Tanzania, 75. Uganda, 70. Botswana, 1,300. I will give you the figures because I have them. I will give it to all the club members. Even the one who was shouting, if you can. Botswana, 1,300. Burundi, 12. Our superpower Kenya, 121. Algeria, 819. Chad, 8. Congo DRC, 84. Ghana, 234. Senegal, 112. Nigeria, our superpower, 126. UK, 5,500. United States, 12,000. So, I have been having a big war within Uganda because I could not understand how a country can develop without electricity. How do you become a modern country without electricity? But the sort of wars we have had to have, first of all, internally, with the civil servants. You find there is a commissioner of energy, which means a commission of darkness. The man is an engineer with a degree in electricity. But the fellow is not bothered about electricity in the country. And I was telling them, I was saying, you civil servants, you are the biggest curse for Africa. Because I told them, I said, even Idi Amin, if somebody had gone to him in his ignorance and told him that, Your Excellency, we needed more electricity, even Idi Amin would have done it. Because even Idi Amin wanted to be a big man, successful, and so on, although he was killing people. But to find that, first of all, the intellectual class, they don't know this. They're just there, engaged in sort of activities like the other character was behind there. I cannot accept this. In 1986, when the NRM came into government, Uganda was producing only 60 megawatts. 60. Now, to run one factory like Naituri Ginger, the one of textiles, you need 20 megawatts. So that means the electricity they were producing was only enough for 3 factories. So how will you develop? How will you develop? what is amazing is that even the international organizations which come to advise, to do this, why don't they advise these people? If you find somebody who is asleep, why don't you wake him up? This one, nobody in Uganda told me this comparison is produced per person. Nobody. I just discovered. I said, by the way, how do other countries handle this? Then I started looking. Myself, a bushman, somebody who came from the bush. So, really, the African middle class, in the prayer book of the church where I once in a while ago, has got a good statement. It says, they left undone what they ought to have done, and they did that they ought not have done, and there's no truth in them. They are lost. Balekanga byabasande kukola, nibakola byebatasande kukola, n'amazima tigala mu bo. This is in the Uganda. I don't know how to put it. Do we have a religious man here in Swahili? Now, the full list of the kilowatt hour per capita for all the countries of the world is appended to this speech. So you'll be able to get it. But of course you can get it on the internet. If you go on the internet, you will see all these figures. Uganda's kilowatt hour per capita will be 100 next year when Bujagari is finished, and it will be 500 in 2016 when Karuma, Ayago, Isimba, and the thermal as well as the gas plants are ready. So you see the long battle we are having. Even yesterday I was opening one small dam in this struggle. Because now that I have discovered the problem, we are just moving. We are moving. We are forcing the civil servants to do what we must do. Fortunately now we have our own money. In the past also there was another problem, that we didn't have money. We had to depend on begging from outside and loans. But those people are not interested in serious programs for Africa. Just interested in small things to teach you how to organize elections. Elections. I organized the elections in 1963 when I was in senior 3 for our debating club. So I know how to organize elections. And it was by secret ballot. So instead of dealing with the real needs of Africa, electricity, just the small things. It's really very sad. And then you have all these characters running around talking nonsense. Yes. It is shameful. In the Uganda, we now have our money. We shall build these dams by ourselves. Even the private sector sometimes also wastes our time. Because many of them are poor anyway. Because they come to borrow from banks. Banks have got high interest, so they now want to recover money from this electricity. No, but electricity is like a road. It is infrastructure. It should be as cheap as possible. So those ones also take up a lot of our time. But if they come, we can see if we can agree on the tariffs, the final tariffs. We have lost time because we didn't have our own money. And also we did not clear the conceptual confusion which was among our people, among the civil servants, among the political class. Just talking a lot of empty air. We are now moving. And I would really ask Africans to move on the question of electricity. Because what are you going to do without electricity? How are you going to have a modern life? How are you going to solve the problem of employment? Because employment, I don't have time to go into that. The other time I was talking to my people about what types of employment are you talking about? Either you are working in a factory, or in a hotel like this one, or you are in agriculture, modern agriculture, not peasant agriculture, or you are working for the government, or you are, these days we have got what we call BPO, business processing outsourcing. And you can be in any of those five as an employee, or you can be self-employed. But in all that, you need electricity. Even if you are self-employed, you are a welder or what, you need electricity. So, when I went to the UN, you know, when you go to the UN, you find a lot of Africans there. When you look at the UN, you think the whole world is full of blacks. Because they are all these small countries of Africa. Each one has got an excellence ambassador. So they are all there in the meeting. There's only one Chinese. Representing 1.3 billion people. But when you look in the audience, you think the whole world is made of blacks. Somebody is representing 20,000 people. That's a republic. Another one. So when I went to that UN, I asked them, I said, because when I went to the UN, they were mourning. You know, there's some song they are singing these days. Something they call MGDs or whatever they call it. That one there. MGDs. Oh, we are not going to meet MGDs. We are not going to meet MGDs by 2015. So I asked them, I said, but Excellencies, how did you intend to meet the MGDs? By magic or by what? Were you going to use witchcraft? If you don't have electricity, how will you solve those problems? All African countries, except for South Africa, are producing miserably small amounts of electricity. Yet, this is one of the most important stimuli that can cause an economy to grow fast and transition. The greatest pool of hydropower in Africa is to be found in Congo and Ethiopia. That is also another big problem. When you go to some of these meetings of Africans, you hear, oh no, Africa has got a lot of natural resources, has got a lot of, but I took the trouble and tried to look, for instance, at the potential for hydroelectricity in the whole of Africa. All the rivers of Africa put together, they would produce about 300,000 megawatts. or 360,000 megawatts. You can look it up also. But we are now 1 billion people, Africans. Now, the United States, which has got a population of only 316 million, is using 1 million megawatts. In other words, the United States is using 3 times as much electricity as the whole potential of all the rivers in Africa. So when I went to the UN, I told those people, there was some conference, they always call these conferences. And I told them, I said, unless you have biologically proven that Africans don't need electricity, then I don't know what you are talking about here. So even if we developed all the hydropower in Africa, we would still be in shortage of electricity from hydro. We shall have to look to other sources also. But the biggest pool of this electricity is in Congo and Ethiopia, our neighbor here. So we could work with them to see how we could, at least in the short run, mitigate this problem. In the case of Uganda, we are going to develop all the energy sources that Uganda has: hydro, oil and gas, wind, geothermal, solar, and in the long run, nuclear, using our abundant uranium. A few years ago, some individuals from outside met me with excitement. They wanted to start exporting our uranium to some place outside. I told them that I would not allow the export of uranium so as to generate power for others while Uganda is in darkness. And I told these people that the uranium has been in the ground for 3 million years. It will stay there until Ugandans are ready to use it themselves. Seriously, somebody was saying I should export uranium so that they feed their power stations when I'm in darkness here. You can't believe it. People are not even ashamed. They think that Africans are like children or I don't know what. But because they get away with it, you must forgive them. It's not their fault. As can be inferred from the foregoing, the development of industry, modernization of agriculture, and the development of the services sector would be greatly propelled by modern infrastructure. I always like to use the example of coffee. Uganda is one of the 4 biggest producers of Robusta coffee in the whole world, and among the top 10 biggest producers of Arabica coffee in the whole world. The total coffee trade in the world is now United States dollars 161 billion. However, out of this, the coffee-growing countries only take US dollars 16.5 billion. The coffee trade at retail level is 161 billion. It has been going up. But the coffee-growing countries, all of them, including Brazil, only take 16.5 billion. The remaining 145 billion is taken by the coffee-consuming countries. This is at the retail level. To be specific, Uganda has been earning US $1 per kilogram of coffee. When the coffee is roasted and ground in London by Nestle, the same kilogram earns US $15. Therefore, in each kilogram of coffee, Uganda has been donating to UK US dollars 14. Uganda has also been donating jobs to UK, because when you are roasting, you are grounding, that job is done by the British, not by my daughter or my son. Therefore, agro-processing, utilizing good infrastructure, would be an important element in the transformation of Uganda and African societies. Another stimuli, which we missed in the 1960s, is private sector-led growth. Some economies in Africa stagnated on account of their governments interfering with the private sector. Uganda's economy suffered enormously on account of Obote's partial nationalization in 1970 of private companies. This was in what he called natural announcements. And the actions of Idi Amin of physically uprooting the Asian entrepreneurial class. The economy of Uganda shrank by 41% between 1971 and 1986, mainly on account of this mistake. That was also another big problem for much of Africa after independence. Somehow our leaders did not understand how business flows. And they were against foreign capital. I don't know why. I don't have time to go into that, but this was one of the mistakes. But in some other documents, I have explained it. And that's how we reversed the process in Uganda to let the private sector lead in 1987 when we made the reforms. And we privatized a lot of these government companies, which the government had taken over or had started. There was also another mistake which I don't have time to go into here, but I have explained it in other documents. Now that many African countries have corrected this mistake, there are decent rates of growth, because many of the African countries have now sorted out that problem of not understanding the role of the private sector. They now understand. And it was a big struggle, especially in Uganda, because people were insulting us, saying that we are now agents of foreign interests. No, 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 no. But I don't have time to go into that. Maybe we can handle it in the question and answer time. If only the other stimuli were addressed, Africa would be roaring economically. Now that we have dealt with this question of interfering with the private sector, if we could solve these other problems, these African economies could grow. Another stimulus is a developed human resource. This is referring to a population that is educated, skilled, and healthy. Such population can invent, can adopt, can adapt technologies, and can consume more. It is both an agent of production and an agent of consumption. So a population which is educated, healthy, and with skills is a tool for transformation. Another stimulus is market. When you produce something, it is important that somebody buys from you. The more buyers you have, the better for your business. Therefore, big internal markets are a great stimulus for growth and transformation. China is becoming a huge power on account of its huge population, 1.3 billion people. That population has got skills, they have good infrastructure, and they also consume a lot, although their purchasing power is still low, but growing. Recently, commodity prices went up. Prices of steel, of copper, of cement, of cotton, etc., the growing demand in China for these commodities partly explains this. This now brings us to the second half of our topic, regional integration. Wrong political thinking highlights issues of tribe, religion, gender chauvinism, or any form of sectarianism as matters of importance in politics. We in the national resistance movement historically reject this logic. We never accept the ideas of tribes, of religion, of discriminating against women or young people as correct. I always use my personal example as a Munyankore. My tribe, they are called Banyankore. As a Munyankore. From the Bible, according to St. Luke's Gospel, chapter 10, verses 30-37, Jesus asked his audience the question, who is my neighbor? Somebody had come and I hope you have heard about Christianity. There was this man who thought he was very clever, and he came and asked Jesus. He said, tell us the law. Then Jesus said, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as you love yourself. These two are the greatest laws. And from these two, all other laws of the prophets come. Then this man was not satisfied, so he continued and said, who is my neighbor? So that's what I'm going to. Then Jesus went on to give the following parable. This is in quotes. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. Now, by chance, a priest was going down that road. And when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. He didn't help him. He went away. This was a priest with a collar. So likewise, a Levite, when he came, this was also another big church official, who came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan was not a Jew, and he was also from another religion. He was not from the tribe of the Jews, and he was also not from their religion. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was. And when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine on the wounds. Then he set him on his own donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took 2 denarii, this was some type of money, and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, take care of him, and whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back. Now then Jesus asked these people, which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said to him, you go and do likewise. Now, this is the biggest campaign against tribalism and religious sectarianism. Because who is your neighbor? Jesus here answered it. Similarly, if somebody was to say to me, Mr. Museveni, who is responsible for your prosperity as a person? Is this the Banyankore who are your neighbors? Or is this the other people in Uganda and beyond? I would, without any equivocation, say that my Banyankore neighbors assist my prosperity in only one aspect, Since they produce the same products as myself, see, my neighbors, they produce the same products as myself. They produce milk, bananas, beef, etc. They help me in generating big volumes of these products so that marketing and processing these products is easier. So that's how these Banyankore helped me, because they produce similar to what I produce. They help me by producing, and I produce, and then we have big volumes so that marketing is easy. Beyond this, however, it is the other Ugandans, the East Africans, the Southern Sudanese, and the Congolese that are responsible for my prosperity, because they are the ones who buy what I produce. Because these neighbors of mine don't buy from me. I don't buy from them. Why? Because we are producing the same products. They are producing bananas, I'm producing bananas. They are producing milk, I'm producing milk. They don't buy from me, I don't buy from them. So how are they helping me? So who is my neighbor here? So therefore, my answer is that the one who is responsible for my prosperity are not these Banyankore of mine. It is these other people who buy what I produce. They are the ones who buy what I produce. Even this market is not enough. The market of East Africa is not enough. We need to access international markets. However, when we act as a bloc, it is easier to negotiate with the other big countries for the market access. In one of our languages, we say, the one who invites you for a meal, it is because he wants something from you in return. Therefore, you cannot negotiate for big external markets when you don't have something big yourself to offer. We can only negotiate credibly as East Africa, a market of 130 million people. In East Africa, people are now agreed about the importance of economic integration. They are also agreed on the need for political integration in the form of an East African federation. There was a consultation on this, a survey which was carried out, and it was found that all the East Africans in the 5 countries agree to a political federation of East Africa. The only difference was the discussion is now only on the speed of the political integration. Some argue for a step-by-step approach, while others argue for speed. The East Africans are, however, agreed on the need for political integration over and above the economic integration, which is already quite advanced. There are many reasons to advance for this political integration. In the presidential retreat of 2004 in Nairobi, we identified about a dozen reasons why political integration is necessary on top of economic integration. On this occasion, I will only cite 3 of those reasons. When you integrate economically only, you do not deal with strategic security. Some countries in America, if you integrate only in the economy, you only deal with the economy. You don't deal with the defense, for instance, and security, because it's not a community matter. It is a matter for each country. And we pointed out that this was, as I will point out, that this was dangerous. Some countries in America, Europe, and Asia have now got presence in space. Some of the United States, some of the countries in Europe like Russia, Some of the Asian countries like China and India, they are now in space, on the moon. They are looking at us here like insects. Just look. That space is common property for all of us. The moon is ours also. But we are not there. We're just here in Naivasha, Naikuru. We don't know what's going on there. These people are looking at us like this, as you are looking at insects. When the insects are just going around, you just look at them. They don't know that you are there. They're just busy with eating some sugar. If you want to kill them with insecticide, you just kill them. They will not even know it. We need to go to space there and ask, what are you doing here? This is our common property. This moon is also ours. None of the African countries has got a space program. This is a recipe for disaster. It is the old problem of the gunpowder all over again. Our individual countries, even when they develop, may not easily manage space programs. Yet you cannot guarantee your sovereignty unless you are at par with other countries in technology, either individually or collectively. This, therefore, becomes one of the compelling factors for political integration in East Africa. The second reason for political integration in East Africa is the similarity or closeness of the peoples involved. The Bantus, the Nilotics, and the Nilo-Hamitic peoples of this area who use the common language of Swahili. When I was arriving here, I was met at the airport by somebody I had met some years before, a general called Mwaniki. Mwaniki had come to see me in Uganda in the past. So when I heard his name, Mwaniki, I said, what does your name mean? What do you call, and he told me that it means somebody who dries things. Mwaniki, Kwanika. That's exactly what it means in my language. Okwanika. Omwanichi. For instance, in my language, my dialect, I would say Omwanichi, the one who dries things. This is Kikuyu dialect, so many miles from Uganda. The other time my daughter was studying in London, and she was staying in the same room with another friend of hers, a Kenyan. The Kenyan girl was called Mukami. Then when I went to see them, I said, what does your name mean? They said it means the one who milks cows. Kukama, Mukami, the milker. So these are the people we are talking about. When you talk of the laws, I have my laws in Uganda, in Tororo, in Lango, in Acholi, in Nebi. These laws are in Tanzania also. There are some people here called Baluya, this Mulembe group. Those are Bagisu of Uganda. So these are the same people. So if Kenya is good, why shouldn't East Africa be even better? Kama mnasema Kenya ni mzuri, comprised of the same people, why shouldn't East Africa be even better? comprised of the same peoples. And using this language of Swahili. Swahili is a Bantu dialect, but which has no tribe. This is the advantage of Swahili. It's not as rich in vocabulary as some of the hinterland languages, because those dialects inside are very rich in dialect, in vocabulary. But we can enrich Swahili with those languages of the interior, which are much richer than Swahili and English, because English is a poor language. When I use it, I feel very much constrained. But those dialects of the interior, for instance, one day I asked President Mwinyi, I wanted him to ask, if you choke somebody by the throat, I said, what do you call it in Swahili? They don't have a single word. Said, kukaba roho. Just a description. Kukaba roho. But in my dialects there, I say, kuniga. 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 I don't have to add any other word, because if I say kuniga, you know I am strangling you by the throat. If I was squeezing your hand, your arm like this, I would use a different verb. Kumiga. So those dialects are very, very rich. So if we can bring more words in Swahili, I don't know why these Swahilis got tired. These tribes at the coast, these Mijikenda and all those. I don't know why they got tired, because they counted in Bantu, Moja, that's Bantu, Mbiri, Bantu, Tatu, Bantu, Nne, Bantu, Tano, Bantu. When they got 6, they got tired. They used the Arabic word, Sita. That's Arabic now. Then Saba, Arabic. Nane, Bantu. Tisa, Arabic. Kumi, Bantu. So I said, why did these fellows get tired? At figure 5. Because in my dialect, I would say, Emwe, Ibiri, Ishatu, Ina, Itano, Mukaga. Mukaga. Mukaga is 6. Mushanju, Munana, Mwenda, Ikumi, in my dialect. You Kikuyus, you are like Banyarwanda. I think you're Rwandese who got lost here. Because I hear you using Chinyarwanda words. Mirongo, Tandatu, Gata. That's Chinyarwanda. That's Chinyarwanda Kirundi. So I don't know why this Arikan is also from that group. From the coast, that's what he told me. I don't know why they got tired at 5 and started borrowing Arabic words for Sita, Saba, Tisa, Mia. For us, we say Igana. Igana is 100. Igana is 100. Rukumi is 1,000. Here you say Erfu. That's Swahili, that's Arabic. Say Rukumi, that is 1,000. 10,000 is Omutwaro. 100,000 is Akasirira. 1 million is Akakaikuru. 1 billion is Akahumbi. So, we can liberate, okay, we don't want to chase the Arabic words. After all, they bring our Arabs also from Yemen and so on. Those are part of East Africa, those Arabs there, Oman. But we can put the Bantu words from the interior as synonyms. Okay, you say Sita, Mukago, stroke. The Swahili Council for East Africa can sit down and select the best words to use. The third reason is that the third reason why we should engage in political integration in addition to economic integration is that there is some unfairness and potential disgruntlement because of the different levels of development of the regional partners in a mere economic integration. With just economic integration, you do not share tax revenue, nor do you share the jobs generated by the enterprises benefiting from the common market. If you only concentrate on economic integration, but you don't deal with the political integration, one problem you have is that, okay, you have a factory based in Mombasa, in Kenya. It will be selling in Uganda as if Uganda is part of Kenya, because we are now one market. But when you get taxes from the products of that factory, the Ugandans do not share in those taxes. They are only taken by Kenya. And if my daughter walked to Mombasa and said, I want to work here, they say, oh, where was you in Kenya? Where in Uganda? So, I support that factory by buying what it produces, but my daughter cannot work there, nor can I share in the revenues, the tax of that factory. That eventually can cause problems. The other members can feel unhappy, the ones who are less developed. There are no factories in Karamoja, for instance. Karamoja is a part of Uganda which is remote and relatively undeveloped. There are no factories in Karamoja. Many of the factories and hotels are in Kampala, Jinja, Mbale, etc. However, since Karamoja is part of Uganda, the residents of Karamoja will benefit from the taxes generated by the factories in Kampala. Karamojong also have a right to seek for jobs in any part of Uganda. I have heard of complaints in SADC, in Southern Africa. You hear some of them complaining that South Africa is dominating that South African SADC. Or in ECOWAS, about Nigeria, that Nigeria is dominating that common market of theirs. In East Africa, we should watch out for this possible disgruntlement, or even better, we should cure it. In the European Union, they handle this by creating special funds for the less developed members of the European Union, Portugal, Greece, and etc. They have, yes, we create funds for you so that you can, so they try to deal with it. Connected with all this is one strategic question which all Africans need to answer. What is more important, the human resource or the natural resources? Some actors in Africa seem to say that the natural resources, meaning minerals, oil, gas, agricultural land, etc., are more important than the human resource. That is how you get the problems of Katanga in Congo in 1961. This province of Congo, because it has got copper, etc., had leaders like Moise Tshombe who thought that the others, meaning the other Congolese, should not share in the mineral wealth of Katanga. Hence the attempt to secede from the rest of Congo. Biafra in Nigeria in 1967 had the same logic. oil in the southeast of Nigeria was more important than the population of Nigeria. Even within the eastern region of Nigeria, the delta portion, where the oil actually is, you find voices saying, this is our oil. The others are taking it, sharing in it. It should be ours only. I do not agree with this logic of making the natural resources more important than the human resource. Yes, the natural resources are very important because they constitute raw materials for industrial production. Land and water are important because agriculture is based on them. However, I firmly believe that the human resource is more important than the natural resources. The greatest wealth of Nigeria is the 150 million people of Nigeria. Why? It is because they produce wealth. They innovate and they consume. We have got two very good examples, Saudi Arabia and Japan. Saudi Arabia has got a lot of oil, 250 billion barrels of proven reserves. Uganda, we have found some oil there. It may end up with about 10 billion barrels of oil. So you can see how much oil is in Saudi Arabia. It's much more than what we shall eventually find in Uganda. Japan, on the other hand, has no minerals, no oil, and no arable land for agriculture. Yet, it is the second richest economy in the world with a GDP of US dollars 2.5 trillion. Saudi Arabia has, on the other hand, a GDP of about $600 billion, less than 10% of the wealth of Japan. An educated and skilled human resource is a great asset. Some countries like Uganda are lucky because they have both natural resources and human resources, our 33 million people. I value this human resource greatly. Even that individual, Karamojong, who is still running around stealing cows from others, is already a contributor to the Ugandan economy. Those 2 meters of the shuka he's covering himself with, or herself, are part of the purchasing power that is driving Uganda's economy. In fact, Karamojong and Pokot cattle raiders are now using mobile phones to steal cows. Partly destructive and partly constructive. It is a matter of time before we completely suppress the negative side of the cattle rustler and enhance his positive side of purchasing power. I have total contempt for sectarianism of any type. It is rationally bad from modern societies. Those who cling to it are in disharmony with modern imperatives. It is pseudo-ideology because it does not capture the legitimate interests of the people. My conviction is that Uganda and other African countries must transition from third world to first world countries, to use the words of Lee Kuan Yew, from peasant societies to middle class societies, with the skilled working class societies. Uganda will be a middle income country by 2016, albeit on the lower end of the middle income spectrum with about US dollars 1,000 per capita. We brushed away the cobweb that used to obscure the vision of transformation. We are now able to fund many of our infrastructure programs. This is an unprecedented moment for Uganda. The fact that we are able to fund our own programs is really exciting because we move and we are beginning to move. Patriotism and Pan-Africanism constitute the correct way for the future. I thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, President Museveni, for an outstanding presentation. It was really appreciated. We'd like to now take some questions, have a Q&A session. I was sitting with the President inside and I said to him, are there any questions we can't take? And he said, only about the internal affairs of the Republic of Kenya. Which I thought was very good. Has anyone got a question for the President? I will go backwards. Jeff, you promised you'd ask the first question.
All right, Mr. President, I'll ask the first question because I think I know you more than a lot of people here, and they might be a little intimidated in asking you some of the questions I would ask. And by the way, before I ask my question, what does Kagota mean in Banyangole?
Muguta means cow hide, the hide of a cow. So when my father was born, he was a very heavy baby, very heavy in weight. So they said, oh, this boy is as heavy as that raw hide of a cow. It's very heavy.
In my language, it means like fat, small bit of fat, right? Kaguta, small bit of fat. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, I digress. Look, you've made some really good points here. And I'm going to thank you on behalf of everyone so that nobody, we don't keep thanking him for coming. We appreciate your coming, okay? And you made some really valid points, Mr. President, but it looks like you are playing into the hands of those people you talk about. And I'll explain why. Less than 2 kilometers from where you're sitting right now is the leader of, or the man who ran against you in the last election. Now remember, I was there. They declared that you had won by what, 68% of the vote? 68. Huge. Give or take, let's say, even if there's, calls of rigging or whatever it is, let's say 10% of that, you still won that election, okay? Fast forward, the man is calling for walk to work, whatever it is that he's calling for. Why not let the man walk to work? Hold on, because look, let's face it. You are turning this man into a martyr, Mr. President. And that is playing into those people's game. He's going to be a martyr. He's going to be on the news. You can see every network, and I wouldn't mention that, every international broadcaster. Those are the pictures they are putting out there. Oh, Besigye arrested again. Oh, dumped in the back of the pickup. Oh, he's broken his arm. Now he's at Nairobi Hospital. I mean, they're going to play that news. In the meantime, you want to get ahead with the work that you have, which is drill that oil, put it up, sell it, build your country. Mr. President, man, I mean, you can...
Okay, there are two issues there. There is no problem for Besigye to walk. Either to walk to work or to walk as an exercise. Whatever he wants, there's no problem. But Kampala is a very crowded city. We are still struggling with the problems of infrastructure. What we ask of him, we say, please, if you want to walk, inform the police so that you agree with them where you want to pass. In case you want to go walk through markets, because we have had history of some incidents of riots in the past. Because if you visited my farm, if you want to walk through my farm with the 200 or 300 people following you, surely you should inform me. Because in case my cows stampede and get lost, that will not be Christian of you. Now, what is the garden of a shopkeeper in Kampala? It is his shop. So when you invite rioters to walk through the shops of people and the markets, You are like trampling on my farm. You should agree with the police how you want that to be done. You saw it was being done in the election. What was the problem? Basically, could hold whatever rallies he wanted, anywhere. But we had one arbitrator, the Electoral Commission. We all had to go and say, please, I want to hold my rally here today. Is it all right? Then the Electoral Commission says, yes, it's all right. Now, that is the problem. Now, but basically says, no, I will not inform the police. I will simply walk. Of course, we knew that their plans already. Their plans were to loot, to cause people to loot people's shops, so that they undermine our program of recovery and development. That's all. If he wants to walk, inform the police and you can walk. There's no problem. You agree. And also cooperate with them. If they say, here, people are selling their products, don't walk through there, you should cooperate. Now, those people who are putting on the internet, message and so on, they should... I saw one man, an American, a white man, I don't know what he is, I think he's like a mayor or something like that. He went and obstructed traffic in I think it was Washington or New York, and he was being arrested by the police. And he was not kicking police, he was not fighting, he was cooperating. That's how it should be. Otherwise, we have no problem with walking. It is walking without cooperation with the police. With the police. This man here, this white man is being arrested.
Washington, D.C., man.
Yes.
But Mr. President, how do you solve this problem? How do you get from here now? Because it's getting really ugly, and you need to move on with your work. As you said, how do you move on from... Are you going to visit him in hospital, first of all? Are you going to see him?
Well, I wish him quick recovery. He preferred hospitals in Nairobi, although there are hospitals in Uganda. I wish him good luck here.
Thank you, sir.
Your Excellency, before we came, we had statistics of how PLO Lumumba is my name, Your Excellency. We had statistics of how food prices are going to be a problem going forward. Given that we are integrating as East Africa, wouldn't it have been wise for the East African leaders to have an emergency meeting of the heads of state so that the problem is given an East African and therefore a regional dimension? Thank you.
Yes, we should have. In fact, we had a report on food security in Arusha, in Dar es Salaam when we met recently. But we could have a dedicated summit. Uganda produces food easily, and we are going to quadruple food production by doing a number of things, including micro irrigation. We don't use much fertilizer. If we could use a little bit of fertilizer in controlled ways, food production will go up. We are big producers of all types of food. You take bananas, we are the biggest producers of bananas in the whole world. We produce 10 million metric tons of bananas. So we are ready. I agree, we should have a dedicated summit to deal with this issue.
I just want a quick question. Mr. President, you gave a very powerful defense of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. I think it was in one of our local newspapers. How do you now see the situation since that time when you wrote that very passionate piece about him?
Well, actually, I was not defending Gaddafi, but I was simply analyzing him. His positive side and his negative side. Now a group of Western countries, United States, United Kingdom and France,
Sarkozy.
They seem to have their own program. But for us in Africa, we have politely told them that that's not the way to go. And especially since this is an African land, This land is in Africa, it is not in Europe. We cannot accept that you do things here which we have not agreed on. Recently, there was a peace and security meeting in Addis Ababa. That's a group of about 16 countries of Africa, and they maintain that position that Libya, what they need is a dialogue and a political solution. Because the problem of Libya is not a military solution. It's not a military problem, it is a political problem. And they decided to call an extraordinary summit of African leaders to discuss this. And we are waiting for that. And in that extraordinary session, we will hear what we shall say about that issue.
Now, from your book, Sowing the Mustard Seed, I would like to quote this, where you say, and I quote, "I should emphasize from the beginning that I'm not a professional politician in the sense that there are politicians in the West and also here in Africa whose life revolves around politics." And I go down where you say, "Leadership, therefore, has been a tremendous sacrifice for many of us and was never a sign qua non for my original participation in the struggle." In this context, I want you just to explain to us youth here your understanding of democracy vis-a-vis organized politics and also the first past post election.
Initially, me, I didn't care much about multi-party politics, as you know. You remember I used to say that all-inclusiveness was better. You know, we called it a no-party democracy. That's what we used to call it, where people present themselves on individual merit. But some people said, no, this is not good, we go to party politics. We said, okay, let's go for that. So went for that, and NRM is always winning. Winning because we are right. Our programs are right. We are nationalists. We are not agents of other people. We are Pan-Africanists, as you can see. Now, these other groups push other programs, sectarianism, religion, tribes, I don't know what. And when we explain to our people, they really understand us, and we win. And now we are becoming much stronger now, because we have more capacity now. We have got money, which we didn't have in the past. We have controlled security. Those terrorists who used to kill our people, we have defeated them. So our party is very strong. It's getting stronger. So, but if people want to, if the Ugandans say we should go for proportional representation, I have no problem. I don't mind. Any system which is based on the people, the governed, giving periodic approval or disapproval is all right with me. It's up to the people to decide. Although the only people I have with proportional representation could be that our societies are really tribal societies still. You have these local areas. Now, the proportional representation, the way I understand it is that you have a list of party. So you don't have constituency members. That one, I don't know how those Ugandans would like it. Because I think they like to have their members from their constituencies. That will be the only little issue, but otherwise I would have no problem at all. Predecessors did not have elections. That was the problem. I can tell you that we had the first elections in 1962, just before the British left. And we never had elections again until 1980. That was 18 years without elections. So that's why the problem was. Now, when you have elections, of course, for me, I'm very happy to go home and look after my cows. You know, they are waiting for me. But also, we have got historical tasks. Like these issues I've been raising here. you take up the mantle of East African Federation, you the young people. Take it up instead of watching Arsenal and the European. Now, the other day, somebody asked me, you know which club has won? I said, what clubs? What clubs? Apparently, somebody was asking me about European football clubs. I don't even know a single one of them. Because my mind is on Africa. All these years, for the last 45 years, I've been on nothing else. So if you, the young people, if you could relieve us of this burden, and I see that you are there, you are not only thinking about hairstyles and all these, then I would be assured to say that if I go back to my cows, my daughter there will continue, the doctor with the spectacles will continue. But you are busy with so I said, no. I must persist until I wake these people up. In Uganda, and here I liaise with Mzee Kibaki, even Mzee Moi used to discuss this issue of East Africa. You take them up so that the Wazee can feel, I can feel assured that you are going to insure. Why do you insure all other things? You are insuring houses, insuring cars. Why don't you think of insuring Africa? You take it up. Instead of just talking about European clubs, football, who has won, I don't know what. These girls who go half naked, that they are, what do you call them, these fashion shows. Then I will be at home comfortable knowing that our children are on the right track. But I cannot, if I have life in me, energy, like this question of electricity, Uganda is going to build these dams because they were not doing it. Commissioner of electricity, who is commissioner of darkness, that I cannot accept. Sorry. If you say you are staying too long, I'm staying too long because you are not doing the right thing. And if my people vote for me, and these people vote for me because those people make those same arguments when I go for election. The man is tired, let him go home. He's too old. Then I also answer them, I defeat them. Because they are talking nothing. The people can see that these are not serious. Let the youth become serious. On the right side, strengthening Africa, not becoming agents of foreign interests, and providing solutions for Africa. I would be happily at home looking after my cows.
President Museveni, David McKenzie from CNN. A lot of us have been disturbed by the somewhat autocratic tactics used by the government in Kampala in the last few days. You talk a lot about transformation, but I'm wondering how pepper spraying the opposition leader in the face and shooting protesters with live ammunition fits in that particular mantle.
Apparently, it was actually that opposition leader who first sprayed pepper spray against police officers. I think the lenses of CNN don't see very well. Because you didn't capture that. You did not capture this opposition leader spraying the policemen with this. I had never heard of it myself. I'm told that women use it to defend themselves against rapists. This is my first time to hear of it. But it was that leader who did that first, and I didn't know that he had it or that the policemen had it. About the accidental shootings, where they have happened, we have investigated. And where it's not correct, because in rioting, you can be shot. There are police procedures, how this one is done. Now, if we have found that they have done it outside the law, we shall arrest them.
Are you worried this will escalate?
No, it won't escalate. We are going to defeat it. We shall. It will not escalate. It cannot escalate.
President Museveni, you're sitting, you've described, this is an excellent presentation, very interesting. Value addition is a subject which is close to my heart, because I think, still, even here with tea, for example, we earn $1.3 billion on tea. But none of it's packaged with anything that's ours. You'll go to Fortnum and Mason's and they'll say fine Kenya tea, but it's being packaged, like you said, in London somewhere. And there is an issue around that. How, what solutions do you think, as Africans, we have? I mean, for example, I worked in the financial markets. Where is coffee traded? You're the biggest coffee producer. If I wanted to buy coffee on a futures contract, I have to do it in the States. When do you think we can sort of, that architecture of value addition, how do we go about creating that in our region here?
Yeah, but it goes back to what I said. Imagine China, they have overtaken Africa. And you remember, the Western countries were treating these people as very bad people. They are communists. The Western countries have now forgotten that Chinese are still communists.
No.
They are really dying to go there. They don't mention anything about communism when they go there. Why? Because the Chinese, they did exactly what I've been talking about here. Infrastructure, electricity. Because the person who could package that tea, when he knows that Kenya doesn't have enough electricity, or if it is there, it is expensive, small and inadequate and expensive, they don't come. Both the locals don't invest easily, but even the foreigners don't come. China has benefited from a lot of foreign investment because of energy, of roads and skills. Yes. This is why I am really, really annoyed with public servants in Uganda. A commissioner of electricity. Who does not understand and does not insist to this, because the political leaders, sometimes they may not even know. They may not know well. In fact, even me initially, I did not really bother, because I would simply give broad ideas. We want industrialization. Uganda will industrialize. When we were in the bush fighting, we wrote what we call the 10 points program of the NRM. Point number 5 was that Uganda will develop an independent, integrated, self-sustaining economy. This was our political point. Now, what I did not initially address was the details. Yeah. When we would come, we would tell these people, the experts, that they're supposed to be experts. Now, that's what we would like to do. We would like to promote industrialization. Now, the sector people should have gone down to deal with the rest, but they didn't. Yeah. Until later on, I came myself. And this question of staying in power for a long time is actually good. Because I stayed in power for long, I was able to work backwards and say, but why are these people not moving? What's happening? Now, what do I discover? One of the problems is lack of electricity. Then myself, I had now to go and dig, but how do other people handle this? What is the amount of electricity produced in these different countries? That's how I was able to find out all this by myself. Imagine. One character. So, what are these? That's where the problem is. We must solve the problem of electricity and of the roads and the railway. These British built a railway using karai. You know karai? These buckets, they were using buckets. They didn't have earth-moving equipment. Up to now, we are still using the railway of the British, which they built with a bucket. You know what I have done on this one? I have now trained the army to build the railway, because they have been bringing all those wonderful public servants of yours. They bring, can we modernize this railway? But Excellency, how can we do it? Because it's a lot of money. It is a billion, I don't know what billion. What are these billions for? In building the railway. Oh, we must call Chinese to build the railway. Now Chinese are the fashion now. In the past, the Europeans were the fashion. Now the Chinese are the fashion. Anything to be done, Chinese. So I said, now, you engineers of the army, build the railway. Learn how to build the railway. They went, and apparently, people with skills for building the railway are there. Even here in Nairobi, there is a railway training school. Here. So I brought these people from Nairobi. I excavated some old engineers of the Uganda railways who know how to build the railway. I got my... Yes, I excavated them because many of them were retired and forgotten there. I went and dug them up. You come and teach these young engineers of the army how to build the railway. They're building the railway. They're repairing that one in Uganda, and we're going to build any railway you can. And since we are providing our own labor, this billion they have been telling us, $2 billion, $3 billion, these are dollars. We are not going to build this railway by billions. We are going to build it by hundreds because we shall use our own labor. The only thing we shall buy will be materials from to use the materials, and we just do the work, and some technical collaboration here and there for our people to perfect their skills. That's all. So the problem, why we cannot add value in a significant way, has been infrastructure, electricity, the roads, and so on. The skills, our people are educated. Many of our children have been to school. They are there. But they can't do well because they don't have the infrastructure. The infrastructure is the one letting them down. High transport costs, high electricity costs. You start a business, it can't make profit. This is where the problem is. In the past, of course, they also had a problem of market. But the market we are working on now. So what is remaining is now infrastructure.
Excellency President Museveni, I am Dr. Nyekorach Matanga, a Ugandan. I had given my friends chance to speak first so that I can. There are two things that I want to thank you for. One, the strategic security importance of this region is what has made me side with some of the views that you have. You have managed to secure parts, almost 3/4 of Somalia now. I would like to ask you to ask the United Nations Security Council.
Not 3/4 of Somalia, 3/4 of Mogadishu.
Of Mogadishu. Thanks. I would like to ask, and I agreed with your statement when you said double standards are applied. When you put no-fly zone over Libya, and then Ugandan troops, over 10,000 of our brothers and sisters are in Mogadishu defending against Al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda. Your Excellency, you talk to these United States of America every day. Ask them to give you a no-fly zone over Somalia. Why should they run where there is oil and leave us a problem when they are the ones who caused it? That's point number one. Two, Your Excellency, I was one of the fiercest critics. You know it since 1986. We have been at loggerheads.
This is one of my old enemies.
But before you came here, we discussed something, reconciliation. Neighbor, you quoted rightly from the Bible. A neighbor even talked about it with Khan. What is killing Africa today is lack of reconciliation. dialogue, wider dialogue. In the United Kingdom, where I live, Your Excellency, if you want to roast your nyama choma, you seek permit for that smoke to go beyond the other people's houses. Most of the journalists, especially those in CNN, Al Jazeera, and I'm blank man, like from the mountains of Bugisu, I don't speak under the ground. They have not investigated. I have investigated. I asked the Commissioner of Police, your IGG, General Kaihura, has basically written to you for permission to walk. I swear I found that I'm speaking, God is seeing me today. I investigated, I found no written permission even to walk has been put there. So the 1948 Declaration of Human Rights gave those who are talking about international law. International law has two sides of the coin. The state has also to protect the institutions that the Human Rights Charter has given them. So if you are walking alone, like I used to walk 10 miles from Budoda to another place, that's all right. But if you are crowding more than 10 people, you are going to kill the tourists who are coming to see the buildings in Kampala. Therefore, you must seek permission.
Yeah.
Therefore, Mr. President, I do sympathize with Dr. Besigye. I knew it from 1999 when I wrote a letter to him. I said, there is something wrong. But accommodate him. Talk to him. Dialogue. I'm a peacemaker. You know, you sent me to talk to Mukonyi. I talked to him. So now, let's talk to Besigye, Your Excellency.
Can the President respond? Thank you.
Anyone else wants to apply for a job with the President?
The no-fly zone over Mogadishu, we have been asking for it for a long time, over Somalia, but these people who control the Security Council, they don't care about it. But for us, we have done what we can, even on the ground, by walking on foot. We are able to help our people, our brothers in Somalia and sisters. Talking to Besigye, there's no problem, but he must follow the law. He must follow the law. And I'm really surprised to hear these who talk about democracy encouraging impunity, especially for young countries like this. You should be the ones to insist. Even in the home, the elder should be the one to show good conduct, to be an example in good conduct. The political leaders should be the ones to show the respect of the law, of the procedures, rather than saying that the political leaders should behave outside the law, but be immune from censure. That's a very wrong way of arguing. You are not helping, those who are doing that are not helping Africa. They want to cause more problems for Africa. And for us, we cannot accept that.
Mr. President, as you were discussing, I think it was the founding father of Tanzania, President Yoweri, who said that Africans need to catch up because whilst others are going to the moon, we're trying to get to the next village. I think, as Ali Khan outlined, the growth potential in this region is huge. But as we saw in this country, without delivering the basic rights and ensuring them, we can go many steps backwards. Your own country was affected by the events here, and people here believe that that is as a result of ignoring the basic rights of people. So how do you reconcile this need to stabilize politically with realizing the potential for growth? And finally, I think your commissioner for darkness has a counterpart over here. The problem is these people never go away. I don't know if you sacked your commissioner for darkness or you sacked your minister of corruption, but how will you assure Ugandans and the rest of the East African region that this money that is going to come from the oil will be used properly and not given to that same minister of corruption who remains in his office?
On the issue of human rights, yeah, but you see, some of these countries have been reading. If you read the whole list, I think here you need to sort out your thinking. For instance, you take a country like Senegal. You know, I don't like to talk about African countries because I don't want to interfere in their affairs. If you take a country like Senegal, I don't think Senegal has been badly run from a governance point of view. Senegal has been run by decent people, Senghor, Diouf, then now the ones who is there now. But look at their electricity production. Now, if you continue like that, and you only talk about human rights, in the end, you are going to fail. And that's why these countries, in the end, collapse. Like, for instance, Ivory Coast. You remember Ivory Coast, they used to say it had made some progress. It was a middle-income country, and so on and so forth. I think it collapses. If you don't deal with the basics, and you only concentrate on what you call only human rights, isn't right to electricity also a human right? Or is it only rights of voting and assembling, and are those the only rights? I think right to energy, you need to broaden the spectrum of rights, in my opinion, if you are going to be helpful. On the other hand, you look at a country like China, you cannot hold an assembly there. But they have handled the other rights of electricity, of the roads, and so on. They have not addressed the political rights yet. At some stage, I'm sure they will do it. But they have started with the other ones. And they have done much better than these Africans who are always talking about other things. So you better watch. I think you should broaden the rights. The rights must include right to electricity, must include the right to employment, and employment cannot be there unless you have electricity to attract the factories. You must really broaden the spectrum of rights. And the governance. Those who talk about governance need to tell us whether being in darkness is also part of good governance. Now, regarding the second point was what? Why not fire? Why not fire the Commissioner for Darkness and the Commissioner for Corruption? Well, I can fire, my Commissioner for Energy now is actually a good man, but I have had to educate him to say, please, think more about electricity. At least for him he's a scientist. He helped me find our oil. He's a geologist, and I sent them for training in petroleum science. They came and found our oil. So, but I cannot really understand why they couldn't see this. But now they have seen it, they are moving with me. Because I also believe in converting people to my point of view. If they didn't see it, you know, what I could not understand is somebody who has got a degree in electrical engineering, maybe has got a master's, but he doesn't compare, doesn't know that the electricity here is much smaller than the electricity in other places. I cannot understand. It could also be because of the inferiority which these Africans had built up over time, where they think that for them, Africa is supposed to be different from other countries. And indeed, at one time I had to quarrel even with international organizations when they were telling me that, no, you are in a new danger. You are in a danger of having too much electricity. Yes. And they had to force me, because at that time I didn't have money, because I want to build 2 dams at a go. Karuma and Bujagari. And in meetings they say, no, we cannot allow you to build these dams simultaneously. You must sequence. I think they were calling it sequencing. Is it sequencing or what? You must. I said, why? Because you will have too much electricity. There is a new danger called too much electricity. No, because I did not have my own money, I just kept quiet. But now I have my money.
A letter came out in the internet, we don't know the authenticity, apparently written by the man in charge of UCC, that you ordered the closure of the internet. Do you believe that closure of the internet is going to solve problems? I'd like to ask the last question, then you answer them both, sir. And another thing is that it was being said in the Kenyan public and the Kenyan presses that you ordered, you sent the Ugandan military to come and help quell violence in Kenya. Did you order or didn't you order the military to come to Kenya? Thank you, sir.
On the internet, I don't know. I will have to find out. I don't know who closed that internet. I don't know. I will have to find out. Certainly, I don't know. Now, on sending our people here to engage in internal politics, absolutely rubbish. There was no reason to send our troops here unless they were asked for by the government, and they didn't ask for them. So there's no way we could send our troops here. They were not here. None of our people were here. They were just lies, but being spread by those who are spreading them.
One more question.
But I'm glad Prime Minister Raila Odinga distanced himself from those. He even came and visited me. So we are on very good terms.
I'll take you back in time. In 1983, there was a gentleman who came to the bush with you, took pictures with you, wrote some stories about you. And eventually, when you took Kampala in 1986, you invited this gentleman to set up a paper. And this was the New Vision, which he ran for 20 years. And the story is that you made it increasingly difficult for him to stay in Kampala. His name is William Pike. And I just want to know why you connived this man.
William Pike managed, he did not set up that paper. That paper was already there. It's an old paper of Uganda called Uganda Argus. Then they kept changing the names. Then when I took over, I invited him to manage it. He managed it for a long time. Then he retired and went to set up his own business. He had a radio and other businesses. As far as I know, he must be in Kampala. Or if he has gone, he didn't inform me.
My name is Edith Kimani from KTN, a local news station. Now, we've spoken extensively about the riots, about what Besigye did or what he didn't do, about who sprayed pepper spray on whom. What we have not touched on, however, are the 10 families who are now mourning 10 people who are dead. What have you said regarding them? Because we're back tracking 3 weeks now. Have you said anything to their families?
Yes, we are in touch with the families and we are assisting them. We are very sorry about all that. And we are investigating each case. In one case, we are sure that the police or the ones who are with the police were the ones who are in the wrong, and we have arrested those people in massacre. But the others will have to investigate and be sure. Because, you know, when you create confusion, like now we are sitting properly here. But if somebody dropped a snake here, oh, you can be sure a lot of things will go wrong, and you not know who has done the right thing, and then even a pickpocket who was sitting humbly in this audience. Whom you thought was a perfect gentleman. He will take that advantage and grab my daughter's handbag and take it away. So the ones who started this original, really I cannot agree with you when you concentrate on the reactions of the police, which we can audit and know whether they are wrong or right. But also the original, in the Bible they call it the original sin. What is the original mistake? Like we are seated now, but let somebody throw a snake here and we start stampeding. You will see. Even the thief who was quiet, who looked like a decent person, will now take that time to grab my daughter's handbag. So whom shall we blame now? The one who brought a snake and threw it among this ordinary group who are here, even the thief is pretending to be good now. So please, insist on discipline. You cannot have democracy without discipline. Can't you add those few words in the vocabulary, those who talk about democracy, of course, for which I fought, because none of these people fought for democracy, those who talk about it. I fought for democracy. But my democracy is a democracy with discipline. Indiscipline cannot be part of democracy.
Hello, Mr. President. My name is Sylvia, and I'm a history student at Peponi. And just out of pure curiosity, nothing political, I'd like to know if there are any leadership models or leaders, past or present, that you would say you draw inspiration from to provide Uganda with the right impetus to ensure the growth you want for your country.
There are quite a number. One of them was Mwalimu Nyerere. We had our Mzee Jomo Kenyatta here, who fought for the independence of the people of Kenya. We had our African leaders, Samora Machel, others, our contemporaries. I didn't draw inspiration from them, but they are our contemporaries. John Garang, African patriots. These are either my models or my comrades.
My name is Gaetano Kagwa, your countryman. My question is this. You've got your swearing in coming in very soon, and Uganda is in the line to buy some aeroplanes for defense. You talked about infrastructure, you talked about roads, railways. How can Uganda be spending so much money on the planes and the swearing in, and yet there are all these other problems like roads, infrastructure, etc., etc.? Thank you.
On the army, when we captured Kampala, we had an army of about 20,000 fighters. By absorbing the former armies, the old armies, our army grew to 100,000. Very big army. We decided to reduce it in 1990 to 40,000. Now, the logic of reducing it was to make it smaller but better equipped. So that's what we are doing now. We are doing exactly that, smaller but better equipped. And this is a long-term program of about, those modern planes which we are buying, these are the first modern planes we were bought in the last 40 years or something like that. And they will be with us for maybe another 20 years. So we are talking of almost 60 years acquiring some assets for the security of the country. So that's part of our plan. That's part of our plan to have a smaller but better equipped army. That's one. Now on the swearing in is those meetings are business meetings. Don't think that we just go to discuss Arsenal. Football clubs of Europeans. No. When those leaders come, that's how we transact business. Incidentally, I want to tell you, when we came into government in 1986, some of our confused people were, at that time, the trade balance was very much in the favor of Kenya. Kenya was selling to Uganda goods worth $200 million. And people were telling me, say, no, and Uganda was only selling $12 million to Kenya worth of goods. People were telling me, no, we must stop the trade with Kenya. Kenya is exploiting us. I said, no. What is the difference buying Kimbo from Europeans than buying it from the Kenyans? So I'd rather buy it from the Kenyans. Now the trade has gone up. I think Kenya is now exporting to Uganda about $500 million worth of goods. But Uganda also is exporting like 100 and what? 120. Uganda is now selling about $200 million. So I rejected the other line of, You people who spend a lot of your time judging which pygmy is slightly taller than the other one. Some of the people, they really spend a lot of time. There are two pygmies, and then you waste a lot of measuring. This pygmy is slightly taller than the other one, so this one, please, I don't want to deal with the pygmies. I want these people to grow and all become normal people. So these leaders, for us, our politics is Afro-based. Our politics is Afro-based politics. When I have occasion, like when I came to see you here, why did I come? I came because I heard that some Africans were talking about themselves. And I can't miss such a chance. And that shows you the lack of seriousness of some of these people who speak about these things. When these African leaders, once every 5 years, because I'm elected once in 5 years, you must have heard of that Kagwa. You must have heard of that rumor.
I heard the rumor, Your Excellency.
You heard the rumor that the president is elected once every 5 years. And then I say, okay, on the election, when we have had these elections, let the number of the African leaders come and we touch base. And you think this is a bad thing? Oh, you don't know anything about business. When they come, we talk business. Here I'm talking with you ideology. By talking to you about ideology, in the end, I'm talking to you about business.
Yeah.
Because I hope I have got to one or two disciples on the issue of electricity. Now, if you can all push, if you can all, you have this European English word called renaissance. When there was a rebirth, a reawakening, we need to wake you up, you the Africans. You are asleep. Afrika wamelala. Sasa kuamsha mikutano hii ni mizuri. That's why I came here. I came. You never know, I may get 1 or 2 allies out of this meeting. Asante sana.
I would like to thank President Museveni for being such a wonderful speaker and taking all the questions that were asked from him. Thank you once again, President Museveni.
For your club,
yes,
there is this copy of my speech.
Thank you.
There are also other speeches which I had written before about this topic.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And if I might also, I think